Welcome everyone to the Atomic Cinema Experiment. I am Peter, and joining me as always is Tara.
Greetings, citizens.
This is our science fiction movie podcast. We get together every week, we've watched the movie and we talk about it, and we're doing a little triplicate episode series here where we're doing movies that are set in 2020. I have to admit, I didn't notice at any point in this movie them mentioning it was set in 2020, but the interwebs tells us it is. But
maybe there's like a video game of this movie. Maybe the game has more details of the universe.
Maybe it's in the novelization, if there was one. Do people still do that? It does
seem like not too distant future.
Yeah, it's definitely not super far. It's it's clearly meant to be just around the corner, and this was came out in 2011, which honestly is the weirdest thing about. And we're talking about Real Steel, of course. I've not mentioned the title yet, but the weirdest thing about this in movies from this time, and same with Pacific Rim, but more so this one because it's like 2011, is that I can't believe this is almost a decade old already. I feel like I feel like this. I just saw this like a year ago.
Did you see it in theaters?
Yes. No, wait, did I? Oh, I didn't see this one in theaters. No, I saw this when it came out at home. But surprising though, because I saw everything in theaters at this time. So for whatever reason, this one slipped through the cracks. But I did see this back in like 2011, maybe 2012, depending. Might have been slipped into that year. You hadn't seen this before though. You'd said so. Obviously, we'll start spoiler free as we always do. We'll give you a warning before we go into spoilers, somewhere in the middle. But here we go. So. Real Steel is a movie about robot boxing because human boxing was outlawed because it was getting too violent and barbaric, and they said, you know what, this is stupid, too many concussions, too many other things, let's just have robots instead. So now people control robots, and it's kind of like boxing crossed with an esports. In fact, I'd even describe when you actually get to see like the arena league matches like later in the movie, I'm like, this feels more like an esports event than anything else.
Yeah, I think that's intentional.
Yeah, probably, yeah. But that's the premise. But of course, the actual story is Hugh Jackman is this kind of downbeat ex-boxer. He boxed back when boxing was legal, but he's become a robot competitor. I don't know if there's actually a title for it in the movie. What he's referred to. What was his job title?
Yeah, I don't know. Trainer.
Robot pilot. I don't. But when I say
he's the Mickey.
Yeah. When he pilots, he it's like a tablet with like joysticks, and then later on there's like a voice controlled sort of technique. But the real story though is that he finds out he's got a son from like a relationship that he had like about 11 years, given the kid's 11 years old, and he's stuck with the kid over the summer, and it's about him bonding with his son, who he doesn't want anything to do with, because he's a proper shitty individual at the start of the movie.
Oh, definitely.
I mean, long story short, in terms of how shitty he is, he actually sells his child. that's the level of which we're starting at the start. And I don't think it's a spoiler to say that the movie's kind of about making him better as the movie goes on, because it is kind of a heartwarming story directed by Shawn Levy, who did the Night in the Museum movies, and yeah,
I don't know if I like any of his other films.
Yeah, he's not an I see and think get filled with confidence, I suppose, is a fair
Maybe that's why you didn't see it in the theater.
That said, though, he was heavily involved in Stranger Things, and I do like that show a lot, so he does have something related to his name that I like. But, before that, though, he did The Internship. I vaguely remember trailers for that comedy. Date Night.
It's the Google movie?
Is that
I think I saw Date Night.
Oh, I did see an Internship. I saw that. Yeah, that's the Google movie. Yeah, I never saw Date Night, but that was a Steve Carell and Tina Fey film. He did Cheaper by the Dozen and the Pink Panther remake, so he's got a spotty past. This is not a good set of movies typically. So, and I expected nothing of this film. When I put it on, the reason why I probably didn't see it in theaters because I probably thought it was going to suck, and I probably put it on while I was doing something else because it was on a streaming service or it was cheap to rent or something. I don't know what the context was. It's been too long. But I put it on not really expecting anything. Not to say that I was either confirmed or surprised by my viewing, because I'm going to make Tara answer the question first. Tara, what did you think of Real Steel?
Yeah, I skipped this one also because it didn't look like a movie for me, but surprisingly, it's kind of good. I have fun with it. And there's some emotional beats that get me. I guess I just really like these characters or something. I don't think it's great, but it's better than it should be.
I think that's a fair way to describe it. It's better than it should be, because I agree with that sentiment. And do you know what I think it is? I think the story is very cliched in a lot of ways. There's a lot of beats that you can see coming a mile off. There's a lot of moments that feel very cliched in what they're doing with the characters. I think all of that, though, is extremely elevated by the actors they've got. Hugh Jackman, of course, being the main one at the center of it, but even the kid, Evangeline Lilly, is kind of the sort of love interest who's off to the side that he sort of sees occasionally. Like, I think the actors elevate it pretty considerably. It also has like a weird structural thing. It's not even a bad pacing problem. I actually think the pacing's fine, but it's
a long movie too.
Yeah, it's over 2 hours, and what's weird about the structure is that it can, I mean, I guess you could just argue it's more of a 4-act structure than a 3-act structure, but I feel like the end of Act 1 in this movie, realistically, in terms of like the structure of a sports movie like this, because that's essentially what it is, it's a sports movie, is when they get the robot to sort of like, the idea of like putting this like, you know, junkyard robot into a fight, that's actually an hour at the movie before that sort of turning point happens where Hugh Jackman's like, oh, maybe we can do something with this robot. But that's like an hour at the movie. There's so much building to it, and it's not like any of it's like scrappable, really. Like, so much the stuff that's built into, you know, with his relationship with his kids.
That like that there's like one middle robot that he buys for a lot of money.
Sure, yeah.
Maybe that part.
You could have, yeah, maybe you could have skipped that over.
It's just so fast.
Yeah, honestly, you could probably, yeah, now you're saying that, there's a robot he buys when he's down his luck, he's barely get enough money for it, and he's able to do it. And it kind of very quickly goes down the shitter. He takes it to like a sort of underground, illegal, like street robot fighting scheme. Because they have that.
Yeah, it's like a robot with a past. Like people know who it is. It's
yeah, he's like a famous
robot.
Yeah, he's fought in the league and made it to like the finals or something.
He spent a lot of money on it, and then it's like instantly gone.
Yeah, but through his own fault though, because there is some purpose to that stuff. There's some purpose to show.
I mean, they're setting up that he's like not in this anymore, but also it just adds one more thing to the list of why he's a shitty person. Like, he's also really bad at his job.
Oh yeah, he's terrible. This, I think, I mean, there is some purpose though to this section, because I think everything you just said there about him being shitty at this, like, we kind of already got that point, to be honest. I think the point of this section where he has this robot that we're arguing you could maybe cut out this section is basically just that it's trying to show that the kid actually has some good instincts with this stuff, that maybe he should listen to him. But other than that, like, you could probably just go straight from him getting the kid to going to the junkyard and finding this robot and probably cut out a good 15 minutes of the movie.
Yeah, I mean, that whole thing happens fairly quickly. I guess we also established Evangeline Lilly because he purchases the robot, but he would have gone there anyway. So I don't know. Maybe that part you could have cut out, but I didn't hate it.
No, it's not bad. Like, I think it's just because we're talking about it being a bit long and the first act feeling like it's a long first act. And again, you could argue it just kind of splits into two. Like, you have the, like, everything until he meets the kid is kind of Act 1, and then there to, like, the robot performing is like Act 2, and then there's maybe an Act 3 and 4. But it never feels like it's like super against the movie. And while we're saying it's a bit long, you know, it's 2 hours and 7 minutes. It's not like 2.5 hours or 3 hours. It's not silly long. It's a bit longer than you'd expect for what it is. Yeah. I'm not surprised you're kind of into it though, because it's very much Robot Creed, and I feel like
don't think I didn't think about that.
Yeah, well, I know you did.
The boxing scenes were very good. I thought they were like good tension. I was into the fight, even though I never really felt that attached to Adam, the robot that they eventually get. But I did feel attached to the characters. Yeah, and their arcs.
It's more about their arcs. It's more about, like, Hugh Jackman's character is essentially someone who lost who he was because the sport he gave his life to was taken away from him. So he sort of get into this robot thing, and it's never really been quite the same. He's never been as good at it, and because of that, there's so many parts of his life that he's just really bad at. It comes from this unhappiness. And the story of the movie, ultimately, without giving much away, is that the kid kind of lets him find his spark again, and ultimately it builds up to, you know, the final fight where he gets to kind of use his skills in a way that he's not been able to in quite some time.
The villains are cartoons.
Oh,
They're
are.
like
They're
silent
so
cartoons.
Yes.
They barely speak. The villainous robot like looks kind of cool, but again, like I don't really feel anything for the robots. Like I don't. This isn't like watching, I don't know, like a Transformers cartoon or anything like that.
To its credit, I think I'm actually kind of impressed with the film in that it never actually, other than a couple of moments where the kid kind of believes that he's looking at like a robot that's sentient, the movie never actually, like, because I thought the plot of the movie before I watched it the first time was going to be that the robot becomes in some way sentient. It's going to be like a kid and his robot story.
Yeah.
And it never really is that. The robot is very much a plot device for the kid, because the kid's lost his mother. That's why this is all happening, is that his mother's dead. So there's kind of this surrogate nature to it, and the kid's
And he doesn't really have a father because his father is a degenerate.
So despite the fact that I mean, you could argue it's kind of sad, it's actually kind of sweet that he finds this surrogate that he's kind of making up for himself in this robot. But
yeah, like there's a scene where like he makes the robot pick him up, and they have like this moment where he gets to feel like a kid in the arms of a protector, and like it doesn't make me feel heartwarmed for the robot. It just makes me feel sad for the kid.
Which is good, because that comes.
That he doesn't have a human to do that.
But that's good because it comes fairly early on. So the arc of the movie, by the end, he does have a human to do that.
You're right. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's why it's that early, because it's supposed to make you feel kind of sad.
Yeah.
Yeah. And yeah, there's some. I wouldn't say it's got a ton of bite to it, but there's definitely a couple of scenes that are maybe a little bit darker, perhaps, than maybe you expect in here.
Yeah. Actually, now that you bring that up.
Yeah. You're probably thinking the same scene, but we'll get to that in spoilers. The effects are pretty solid for the most part.
There's one scene where a robot jumps and it looks CGI, but the rest, I think, like all the boxing matches look great. Yeah,
the only thing I would say about the CG actually is that the crowd, when they're in the big arena, feels kind of fake. And I get that maybe that's just a style choice, but all the big wide shots of the whole crowd just feel really kind of like, yeah, it's a video game.
Yeah.
That feels like a video game scene. But then it goes into the close-ups of Evangeline and Lilly in the crowd, and it's like, oh, now there's real people all of a sudden. You know, so there's a bit of a disconnect there, but it's not too bad. Like, it's better than it ought to be, and I guess that's maybe the biggest compliment that one. It's got a lot of heart. It's got a good performance from Jackman, who really nails the shitty.
Good performance from the kid. Actually, I think the kid was pretty solid.
No, he is. Yeah, bad kids in movies can, get under my skin, but I don't think that was a problem here.
Yeah, I think they were well performed, and I think they were well written too, because he has a lot of traits like his dad, especially the stubbornness part, and it comes through. And I think I don't know, like it made me not hate him, or it made me go like, oh yeah, he's mad at his kid, but his kid's just like him, and what does he expect?
Yeah. The two people who are as stubborn as each other usually leads to not harmony. Let's put it that way. Not harmonious. It's just honestly, and the direction's pretty solid too, as much as we're kind of making fun of Shawn Levi's filmography here.
Yeah, I've seen the Night at the Museum films, and they're all right. They're family friendly movies that have some jokes that are good and some jokes that really aren't, but for the most part they're fine. I don't know if I've seen any of his other movies.
I mean,
Date Night.
Yeah, I mean, I love Stranger Things, and he did direct some of those, I think. But I mean, obviously,
I'm not the biggest fan of Stranger Things. I know I'm an outlier.
Yeah, but the point I'm making is that TV shows, though, like, it's hard to gauge like how much of a quality, especially when you've got some other directors that might, like, he may have done the first one, actually, to be honest. He may have set up the style, but I wonder, if this is a case of he's getting to do stuff that's just a bit more interesting than just all the sort of typical, like, family-friendly comedies. And this is still fairly family-friendly. I would say maybe one or two slightly darker elements. It's still, it's a movie that I think, you can take like a 10-year-old to see. And get something out of it, maybe bond a little bit. It's got some stuff there. I will say they went a bit too. This is a really minor nitpick, but the font they use in the opening titles, like they're all metallic and stuff, but it just makes them kind of hard to read. They kind of like just look too dark. I know that's a weird complaint, but it just It was sort of like sticking out to me as I was like, just reading the titles when because the movie opens with him driving his truck and he's going to the fair and there's some like country music playing or something like that. It's kind of a weird opening actually, to be honest. You're sitting down to watch a movie about robot boxing and he's like,
I guess the CGI bull also wasn't great.
that's fair. Yeah, there's a bull at the start. You're right, but
And Anthony Mackie's in this movie.
And yeah, I was actually thinking about this as I was watching. This is a movie starring Wolverine, Falcon, and the Wasp.
Yeah. Maybe Dakota Goya would do something or has done something. I don't know.
Is that a kid?
Yeah. He's all grown up now.
Well, this movie was 9 years ago. Whoa, you look so different.
I know.
Look, his
His
long hair.
IMDb picture is like, I don't know, he's going through some angst.
Yeah, he looks like such an angry little shit now. Jeez, what happened to him?
Hollywood's hard on kids.
Aye, apparently. Oh, he was young Thor. So he's Thor.
Oh, yeah.
He's Thor.
He's Thor.
We technically have Thor in
It
this.
is him.
That's pretty fun. Now, to be fair, the rest of his photos at an older age look more like the older version of the kid. He's maybe putting the serious face on a bit too much, but that main one that's his actual profile photo with the long hair. Oh God, what's he doing? What's he
Looks like a
doing?
90s boy.
Yeah.
He's got some angst. He'll work through it.
He's actually not been in anything since 2014.
Oh, he's retired, huh?
I hope it's because he wanted to focus on other things and not because he had a really bad like turn to drugs sort of Hollywood story that so many kids actors in the industry have.
Yeah, that would be awful.
I hope so. Maybe he's off doing maybe he's just decided on a different career choice. He's like, yeah, he's going to university for, I don't know, medicine or something.
Oh, good for him. I like our story. I hope it sticks.
Medicine, law school, maybe he's an astronaut or he's going to be an astronaut. I mean, something cool. Something to be all aspire to.
Yeah, good for him.
Yeah, Kevin Durant's in there as well as sort of a secondary villain.
He's so punchable.
He is so punchable. I actually think he's pretty solid in the right role as a dickhead. And to be fair, this movie that falls into that category.
Yeah, he's very typecast.
Yeah, there's definitely some stuff he's in though where it really annoys me. He's actually Barry Burton in one of the Resident Evil movies, and he's so miscast in that role. It is unbelievable. But yeah, it's a fairly light complaint. Yeah, it's funny. It's just a really weird discussion to have because it's like I don't feel super strongly about it, but I've now seen it twice, and both times I've been left with it was kind of heartwarming, and the arcs work.
It's a fun watch. It looks really good. Like it's a really pretty film. And surprisingly emotional parts and just good movie.
Do you feel like we're getting to a point where because everything's shooting in like 4K, 8K digital and all that, that things aren't changing as much now? Because I feel like if you look at movies from like the start of the 2000s, they look really different now. And when I was watching this, I'm like, this still looks like a new movie. Nothing about this feels like it's dated 9 years.
No, it looks like the 2009 Star Trek. It looks like Pacific Rim. It has that type of look to it.
Yeah, maybe this era is just lasting a bit longer, and we'll have a distinct change at some point. But there was something I was thinking about as I was watching it a little bit, but which isn't a complaint or even a positive. It's just an observation.
I mean, no, it looks good. It looks good to watch.
Yes,
it's easy on the eyes.
Yes,
and I'm not just talking about Jackman.
No, calm yourself. Calm yourself now.
Or Mackie, or Evangeline Lilly.
I mean, I'm more on board for the last one, admittedly. But I don't know. Adam's pretty sexy. He's got that shiny, metallic, kind of grungy look.
He's got a permanent grin.
He does. So yeah, I think we'll probably dive into the plot proper here. So we'll take this time to thank our Patreon producers for the month. If I can just click on my list. So thank you to Tyler Hess, Cindy Palacios, David Sharp, Board Now, Al Treisman, Christopher Moy, Brett Williams, and David Brown. They are our Patreon producers, which is one of the higher tiers over at Patreon, which Tara is going to tell you about right now.
That's right. If you enjoy what we do and want to support the channel, please head on over to our Patreon page. It's patreon.com/MavFuzzTV. And if you donate as low as $1 per month, you will get access to bonus episodes of The Ace, which are not available for any of the regular viewers who we still appreciate and love. Thank you so much. And if you donate $5 per month, you will get access to these reviews one day early, and some other shows you get a week early. Thank you.
Okay, cool. So that, well, in that case, we'll move on to the spoilers. Full spoilers then for Real Steel.
Yep. Let's do this.
Yeah, so Hugh Jackman, he's got an ego. He thinks he's going to win any fight, and he, at first, is up. This is the thing. He actually shows that he recognizes the problem at the start of the movie, where he's in this small town. He's at this fair because he's agreed to like fight this bull with the robot he's got, and he was told it was an 800-pound bull. But then he sees the bull and is like, "What the hell? That's like 2,000 pounds. Like that's a much tougher fight. What the hell?"
No, it's the reverse. He says, like, you guys promised me a 2-ton-pound bull. That's only 800, like 800 pounds at best. He was expecting a bigger bull.
I remember it being the exact opposite, and this will only go in circles if we sit and argue our points, but I'm convinced it was the opposite. He's upset because it's too big and therefore more dangerous to his robot.
Okay.
But I'm not going to check it. So.
I mean, I've only watched it once.
I'm sure that's what he said in the scene. I mean, if I'm wrong, if Tara's right, fair play. Tara can have all the points. And flowers. I'll throw flowers at the screen. She could. But I'm sure that was it. Anyway, but he then agrees. He agrees because he's promised more money. But it's like a win or lose thing where he bets more money and he has to pay up like 20 grand or whatever it is. I don't remember the amount. But he's in the fight and it's going quite well. Like he's fighting the bull and the bull's getting knocked down repeatedly. But then
he gets too cocky.
He starts to notice a couple of ladies in the crowd who are looking over at him and smiling at him, and he gets just a little bit showy because he does one thing to the bull. He's like, "Hey, you like that, didn't you?" But then he's flirting away.
You love animal cruelty, don't you?
But as he's flirting away,
I have objections.
of course. I mean, hey, his kid is anti-hamburger.
Mm-hmm.
That's like a running thing throughout the movie, is that he buys him a cheeseburger or something. He's like, "I don't like burgers." It's like, you're a kid. What kid doesn't like burgers? What's wrong with you?
It is a funny line.
Yeah. But then later on, he gives him another like bag of fast food. He's like, "I told you to like burgers. It's a burrito."
Eat your beans.
I mean, you know what? I'm going to stick up for Jackman slightly here. Is that the kid is a bit of a dick for assuming it's another burger? Like, I would have like check it first, but maybe assume that he's remembered you don't like burgers and got you something different. Other things come in bags.
Burritos also have a very different weight to them than a burger.
Sure.
Burritos are heavier, unless you just get like a bean burrito.
But he doesn't like burgers though, so he doesn't necessarily feel the weight that often to notice it immediately.
Mm.
That's
as someone who eats and has eaten a lot of fast food, I would notice the difference.
As would I. As someone who's never
weigh like a burger.
As someone who's never eaten a burrito, because they're not as common here, I probably would too. I'd probably like grab it. Well, this is heavy. What's this? This isn't a burger.
I feel great sadness for you now that you've not had burritos before.
It's not. Taco Bell opened not too long ago.
What are you doing? Why haven't you got a Taco Bell?
Because I gave up cheese, and apparently all the good things have cheese in them.
No, they don't.
Trust me, Matt is an expert in Taco Bell. The Matt eats at Taco Bell like 4 times a week. He's told me explicitly.
Yes, and as someone who went vegan like 3 years ago, Taco Bell was one of my saviors because all their food there can still be eaten. You just have to say no cheese.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I will try a burrito at Taco Bell, okay? I'll order a Taco Bell at some point soon. Okay? I'll even let Tara consult on the menu.
Crunchwrap Supremes are pretty good. Just ask no cheese. And if you could sub, black beans or refried beans for meat, all the better. And add guacamole. It's the best.
I mean, I'm probably not going to substitute the meat, but...
Then add beans. You can't go wrong. It's Taco Bell.
Okay. Okay. Well,
It's really terrible Mexican food, but like, it's as far as fast food goes, it's one of the better ones.
I do like Pinto. I've had tacos at Pinto before. That's kind of it's like they make it like Subway, where you just sort of like pick what other things you want to go in your various.
Oh, like a Chipotle here.
I don't know. I assume, yeah. That's like Subway, but with Mexican food, then sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. There you go. I love how one comment about the bag of food in the movie propelled us into this.
We're not going to have that much to say about this movie.
It's a light movie, yeah. I mean, it's well done though. Like, I think the script is solid enough. The acting elevates it. There's not a lot to complain about. Like, I mean, genuinely, there's not a lot to point at and say this is like off or weird or it doesn't work. It's very, like, it's not a great movie, but it's very solidly good.
Yes, I would agree with that.
Very, I don't want to say serviceable. Serviceable is maybe a bit weaker than what it is. But
it is like really good fast food when you're hungry.
yes,
Like, it's not good food, but I'm hungry, and it's the best thing I can get. It's like Taco Bell.
I don't think this is bad for your brain, though. Like, fast food's bad for your health. To be fair. Whereas I would say like a Michael Bay Transformers movie is actually bad for your brain. This is not insulting. This is not insulting my intelligence.
No. Maybe that's more than McDonald's.
Sure. I do miss McDonald's. I haven't had one in a long time.
They're making a vegan burger. It's called a McPlant.
I gave up cheese, and I don't see the point in getting a burger without cheese.
It's called a hamburger. Not as opposed to a cheeseburger. I guess it's complicated. It's fine.
That's not what I mean. I know you can get just a hamburger. I'm just saying that in my mind, there's no point without the cheese. Because
All right,
the melty cheese.
Let's get back to this movie.
All right. Okay. What to talk about? So, a little detail that I liked is that because it felt like something that was going to be like a, I don't know, like a goofy Hollywood thing, but you know the voice control's not working on his fancy new robot that he's bought, that he's scraped and basically selling the kid off for, because you know the aunt who wants to take custody of him, her husband is filthy rich. And he recognizes that he's filthy rich, so he very quickly just like, oh, let's just talk numbers here, buddy. Right? Okay, I'll sign him over.
Basically, the aunt's husband is like, look, she really wants the kid, and I really want to go to Tuscany with my wife before she has a kid that we have to take care of forever. And Jackman's like, I'll hold on to him for the summer for like 40 grand or something. I can't remember the price.
It was 100 grand.
Oh, I think he ups it.
It's 100 because it's 50 up front and then 50 when he delivers the kid in August.
Right, yeah. $70,000 he says, and then I think he ups it to 100.
Something I really like about it is that when the kid's dropped off, because what I really thought, I mean, this again, more my first viewing than this one because I'd seen it before, but you know what I mean. One of the things that I really thought was going to be like a forced bit of drama is that him and the kid were going to bond, and then the kid would learn in the start of the third act that he was sold off, and it was going to be this like wrench after they'd already like grown with each other, because it's such an obvious plot point to do.
Yeah, it's like the girl that was told to ask out, or the guy that was told to ask out the ugly girl, and then they really fall in love.
Yeah, she's all that.
Ugly.
Yeah. But no, I love that the kid, as soon as he's dropped off, looks him in the eye and goes, "He paid you, didn't he? What did he pay you? Half of that's mine." Like, he knows his stepfather, or his future stepfather, I suppose. But like, he knows. Oh, it was the both step. I don't know what adoptive parents. This is really the terminology's messy. I don't know, but he knows. And
he's kind of like his dad in this, right? Like he's like, look, I get half, but it's like he's a deal maker.
Yeah, and the whole time he's like arguing that he should get more money, and he's a smart kid because when they go to this underground fight and he insists on going with them. He's like, no, we should take some undercard fights, cheap and easy, make a little bit of money, and then we can go and practice and like, you know, make him better. And Jackman's like, no, he's a champion. We can put him in the main event. And of course, he gets his ass kicked in the main event because he's barely learned how to use the voice commands yet. He doesn't know what he's doing. It's just a whole thing. Did you?
He's like a gambler, I guess. The only thing that I don't really like about this is that it seems unrealistic. That he would, like, the way he's doing it, he just invested like 45 grand into a robot, and he said, this guy's a big hitter. I'm going to throw him into the big fight, the big match, and either win and get double my money or lose and lose everything.
Yep.
Like, you don't have to do that right now. It doesn't seem very logical.
It's not logical, but I think the movie's making it very clear that he has a problem here. That this is constantly a thing for him from the start of the movie up until...
But I just don't know that I buy it. That's all.
No, that's fair. That's fair. But they go to the...
Especially since he just lost, and he lost another robot.
Yeah.
The fight before. But
they go to the junkyard after. Did you think this was oddly, like, super, like, apocalyptic, this junkyard? Like, see when, like, the kid falls down, like, the crevice, and he ends up, like... it's a junkyard at the top of a dam. Yeah, but he ends up, like, getting, you know, caught by the arm of this robot that's in the dirt, which is the robot that becomes Atom, and you know, that's just how they find him. But actually, you know, there's a scene, like, you know, Hugh Jackman's, like, climbing down in the pouring rain, and it's like a scene from, like, Jurassic Park when they're, like, climbing or, like, falling down the trees, or, like, you know, one of those scenes. Plus they have to dodge the raptors and dodging the spotlights, because I think those are also robots. Yes. And no one else believes in this robot. It's a sparring bot. It's its ability to take hits, but not really to dish them out, so it's useless. There's no point in using it. But well, the kid... We should mention that the kid was saved by the robot. Yeah, he sort of lands on his arm, and his arm kind of holds him up. Yeah, he was falling down the cliff, and only lives because there's an outreached robot arm. And it's not active. It didn't, like, actively save him. No. It's just like, you know, being caught in a branch, essentially. Right. But the kid believes that he wants to train this up, and it's his robot, because he spent all night digging it out, because Hugh Jackman wouldn't help him. So the kid ends up covered in mud. But he insists that he wants to take it to a fight. And he's like, you know what, fine, there's this really dodgy, like, illegal fight that's even worse than the one we went to before. Because the one they went to before was the one that Anthony Mackie was running. He was, like, the guy. And this is kind of, like, bigger money illegal fights. He takes him to the zoo, where they have, like, really low down, like, punks and thugs running robot fights. I liked it, yeah. Because the guy's got a mohawk, he's like, yeah, I'll take this fight with this little shit. And the kid basically has the robot survive. And because the bet they make with the guy, because the guy's really cocky, is basically if the robot's still standing, if it survives a minute-long round, then he'll pay him, like, a couple of hundred. You know, it was... So he tries to do it, and Hugh Jackman's, like, dead against it, but there's a moment, like, where he realizes he's over 30 seconds. He's like, wait a minute, we're taking a pounding, and it's still going. Yeah, is it? And then he's shocked when the kid's like double or nothing. He's like, but no, the robot can barely stand. What are you doing? No. And it basically sends them down this path where the robot doesn't know anything, doesn't know any sort of moves, and it's when they're staying together and they're on the road where Hugh Jackman agrees to teach the robot fighting moves and techniques, like things that he can call out. Yeah, because it has a shadow feature in it. Since it's designed to spar with other robots and mimic the other robot's moves, it has, like, a shadow feature. So it's like the mirror image of whatever is in front of him. But at the same time, Hugh Jackman says he'll only do it if the kid will... Also, because he catches him kind of dancing with the robot and making the robot copies dance. He's like, you know what, I'll do it if you do that in front of the crowd before the fight. Because they like a bit of pizzazz. And it's like, yeah. It should be really dumb, but I actually really enjoy the dancing. Watching the robot and the kid dance, I'm like, they've got moves. Or maybe it just looks good because it's a robot. And yeah, probably. You know what it is? It's confidence. That kid has confidence when he dances. Yeah, I think the heartwarming part here is that Jackman's, like, trying to encourage him, and what he doesn't realize, because he's an idiot, is that the kid's essentially doing the same to him. Like, no, be a boxer, do what you're good at. Because there's a couple of scenes with him and Evangeline Lilly where she's like, hey, this was your dad, and this is my dad who trained him, and they were inseparable, and he was this, like, really strong force in driving his career, and all the rest of it. She calls him beautiful. I mean,
It's not much of a stretch. It's Hugh Jackman, but like the way she describes him, like in the ring, she just says he was beautiful in there, which is an odd thing to describe somebody boxing as. But I think it's meant to evoke like he was happy. It was like a good moment for him.
It kind of telegraphs the ending, because I mean it's not a surprise that we get the Rocky ending. You know, the original Rocky where the robot lasts all, you know, I assume it's 15 rounds. Yeah, I don't know if it is, and the robot fighting, but I didn't catch it. Which, actually, that reminds me. Did you notice the ring girl at the big arena fights? It was like yeah,
she was like Madonna mixed with like, I don't know, robot makeup.
Yeah, I was going to say it was like a dominatrix mixed with like cyberpunk. Like,
I was thinking Madonna, like 80s Madonna with the cone boobs.
Yeah, but she had like a weird like mask like thing that covered her whole head as well. It was like a really weird, like, this is someone's weird kink, but this is not a movie that should have someone's weird kink in it.
Yeah, there's just a hint of geeker in there.
Yeah. This is just funny because we just brought up, and I don't know what review it was, but we talked about the henchwoman from Superman 3 turning into the evil robot lady at the end, and I saw this and went, this is kind of like a sexy version of that. Not that I think it's sexy, but it's supposed to be sexy. You can tell it's supposed to be, you know, she's sleek and whatever. I don't know. It was weird. I was like,
we did talk about that. We talked about that, yeah. Babylon 5. Maybe?
It was Babylon 5 because the actress from Superman 2, and that's how we got to it.
That's right.
That's right.
She was the not soul taker.
The Deathwalker, Texas Death Ranger. Yes.
That's a good joke.
Thank you.
That was mine. That was my joke.
If they watch the Babylon 5 reviews, they'll know that. So yeah, they're offered this undercard fight at the big arena, and like they're all excited to go. And what's really interesting about it is that when they go in, and it's this, you know, it's this big sporting arena, and there's big posters of the robots on the side. It's really treated like a big event. And we get the teases of the villainous robot, you know, the main villain, the Japanese guy programmed, and like his like, I don't know if it's like a couple or if it's just like he's someone else who like runs the robot or runs it's like a sports manager or something. I don't know.
I don't know. But I mean, they both like have the same look going on.
Yes, they're both very quiet.
Could just be
sunglasses.
Very sharp features.
Yes, but she basically offers to buy the robot, and Hugh Jackman's like, "Oh, you want 200 grand? Yeah, I'll take it." And the kid's like, "No, he's not for sale. No." And the kid's actually really smart here because he says to him like, "Why do you think they're offering this money before we start fighting in the big leagues properly? It's because they know there's something to be worried about. Like this is them trying to like stay in top. This is them controlling the narrative." And the kid's insistent on the fighting. What's so funny is that I remembered the shadow stuff from later on in the movie from the first time I watched it, and I because they put the voice control thing into Atom, and that's what they're using. So the idea is that Hugh Jackman's trained it with all these different moves, so it knows all the terminology. So when he says, you know, hook, under, left, uppercut, blah blah, he's like, you know, the robot's just doing it properly. But one of the big things that happens at the end, of course, is that for the last round, the voice thing's damaged, and the kid's like, you're going to have to, he can see you, he can't hear you, but he can see you, you're going to have to shadow box. So, you know, there's this big thrilling thing at the end. Not to skip it.
It is though, like it's a fun fight to watch, and I am invested in that. But when they like show Hugh Jackman boxing in the air and like jumping around and throwing punches and stuff, and the kid, they go back to the kid, and the kid's like crying with pride. Like that really got me. So it's
Evangeline Lilly. Do you know what it is? Because Evangeline Lilly looks at him and then looks at the kid, and then like she looks at both of them, and then starts crying and smiling. And it's like she realizes what's happened here is that the kid's let him find himself again. It's I
was really surprised. I was just like, oh, this is working.
You're right. The fight itself's quite good though, because it's just about surviving. Because they set up this idea that like Jackman,
he is Rocky. He's Rocky.
Jackman only ever won a fight when he knocked someone out. He never won on points. So you're in this last round, and obviously there's the fake out where the other one gets up at like 8 or whatever the count is. But one of my favorite moments in the whole fight is when Jackman, he's just sort of doing the whole rope-a-dope thing where he's just blocking the hits, he's just in the corner, and he's essentially just letting the other robot tire itself out. And there's a great thing where like both the kid and Evangeline and Lilly are just in the crowd just going, hold, not yet, just hold, not yet. And then the moment where he actually lets rip and just like beats the piss out of the thing with like 100 shots, it's actually really satisfying. It's really cathartic.
Yeah.
You're like, yeah.
Because it's Hugh Jackman fighting now. Also.
Yeah. And it's not just that, because the whole thing, because this is the thing. And if I have a complaint, there's one thing that's a little bit on the nose in terms of dialogue, but I do love the sentiment, and I think it really works when it gets to this final fight. Is that when the kid's really upset about Jackman sort of dropping him off back with the aunt and the uncle-in-law or the uncle, step-uncle, whatever his terminology is, is that the kid ends up getting mad at him, and he basically says that all I ever wanted was for someone to fight for me, right? And the line's a bit on the nose. It's like the movie's spelling out to us kind of a little bit too much. But it is kind of effective when you get to this final scene and Jackman's literally fighting. Right? Yeah. You know,
it works.
It's Hollywood. it works. But it's the thing. It's like when they announced that the the other robots won on points, it doesn't matter. Like everyone starts booing the decision in the crowd, and
yeah, and then like the announcer guy is just like, how does it feel to have lost the fight, but like won, but lost the crowd or whatever?
Yeah.
Basically, they don't answer because they're silent villains. They just kind of angrily turn and walk away.
The villains don't have they have personality, but they don't have a character. They're just they're vessels for what they're needed for in the plot, and that's it.
They are. Do they represent like the WWE or whatever? Because the kid's like accusing them of rigging fights and keeping people with power on top and not letting the underdogs like have a fair chance.
Well, it's a bit of a stretch because wrestling's supposed to be fixed. I mean, everything's rigged. That's kind of the point. It's all written. But yeah,
I actually don't watch anything like to do with wrestling. So I saw that movie, The Wrestler. That's the closest I've gotten.
That's a good movie.
Yeah, it's decent.
Yeah, I like that movie.
I don't know. Like I've heard things about like Saudi Arabia being involved with WWE.
Oh yeah, no.
Stuff like that.
WWE is an evil as shit company. They are. Their employee practices.
Maybe that's what I was trying to like get to.
Are terrible. The fact that they still did shows in Saudi Arabia after everything, terrible. Like they like just recently they found out some of their wrestlers were streaming and making some tip money on Twitch, so they've enforced the thing where they have to get a cut of their Twitch like tips, and which is especially like amazing because they've long said the reason why they don't have to give them any healthcare or insurance is because they're not employees, they're independent contractors. So why are you entitled to a part of their Twitch earnings? It is disastrously
evil. Do they like
evil.
buy the name or something? I don't know. I don't know.
No,
I've only heard things.
It's shockingly evil. Like Vince McMahon's like one of Trump's like best buddies though, so I mean it's not really a shocking surprise.
Gross.
So if you ever need a reason to like boycott that product, I encourage you to do so because they're trash. People in charge of trash. There's a lot of good people working there, of course, because lots of different people work there, but still.
Right.
Anyway, where are we? You put me on.
So I guess they're not meant to represent those guys.
I mean, it's probably just like, you know, any sort of corporation versus the little guy. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I don't know anything about real boxing, so I don't know if there's like a correlation here with like a real event or person or.
I actually don't really enjoy watching people hurt other people in real life. Like I like it in movies, so I don't really watch boxing. The only boxing I watched was it was Conor McGregor versus Floyd Mayweather. I did watch that, and I found I didn't enjoy it. And I watched it because it came out, like they put it in theaters right after Creed came out. So I thought maybe I'll just go watch a boxing match. That's not for me.
Yeah, I don't enjoy real boxing or mixed martial arts or anything like that. It's just, I don't know, it just doesn't do it for me. To be fair, pretty much all real sport doesn't really do anything for me in terms of watching it. So it's not, I don't know if it's about the actual physical contact part of it. But yeah, I'm not into it.
I enjoy the Olympic Games. I watch those.
Sure. But yeah. But hey, I mean, I'll say this for the movie: it's ended us down a lot of different paths that I would not have predicted tonight.
We didn't really talk about the scene that's like kind of super dark.
No, I was going to go back. We kind of skipped to the last fight because we're talking about the fights and some of the character arc stuff. The thing that prompts Hugh Jackman to give the kid up a bit early is that basically after they win their first fight and they're on top of the world, and when I say first fight, I mean the first fight in the arena, you know, on TV, big crowd, where the kid actually challenges the main bad guy, the main bad robot, which sort of sets that up. As he's leaving, Kevin Durant from the start of the movie, who Hugh Jackman ran away from when he owed him like 20 grand because he lost the bet, shows up with some thugs and beats the crap out of him. And I think that the darkest part of this is not only that the kid has to watch his dad be beat up by some thugs, it's that they then take their winnings off of them, including the kids, because the kid gets 30%. And Hugh Jackman's yelling, "No, don't you take his, that's his, he's got nothing to do with this, that's his." So the fact that the kids also lost his earnings because of what he did just made it feel like extra dark to me.
And they also sort of hurt the kid. Like, he doesn't come out unscathed.
No, I mean, they don't do they just kind of throw him to the ground, but yeah, he does get hurt in the exchange. Yeah. So yeah, it does come off pretty dark, and it's kind of a wake-up call, you know. I mean, he's not, I mean, we did see him drinking, but he's not like an alcoholic, but it's kind of like the wake-up call for him to realize that he's got a problem.
Yeah.
Because it's worth mentioning, the movie doesn't do that thing where he realizes, you know, like Adam Sandler and Big Daddy, where he wants the kid, so he's going to fight for the kid. Like, he kind of accepts that, look, the best I'm ever going to be.
I don't know that reference, but
oh sure, but the best he's ever going to be is like the dad who comes to visit and like can be a part of his life. But he's given up custody. His aunt's going to have him, and that's just like that's still the case. At the end of the movie.
Before, like, he was able to do shady stuff because he was on his own, and now he's realized that he's got responsibilities. There's a kid here. All of a sudden, the dangerous things that he did that had no consequences except to himself, or they can go after his family now.
And to flip that into something else as well, it's not just that he's got his spark back, it's that he's got something to fight for again, which is something he's not had in a long time. So it's just kind of a sweet ring to it. Although notably the aunt and the husband are in the crowd, and by the end of the fight they're really into it. Like, they're really, because she has to give her permission for him, because they've already like sort of like split up as father and son at this point, and he comes by and says, "Look, can I have permission to take him one last fight one night? Come on, let's do this." And that reminded me a lot of is them like getting into it in the crowd and be like, "Yeah, punch him." It reminded me of School of Rock, when the parents all go really angry to the concert, but then when they're halfway through the song, they're like, "Yeah, that's my kid, rock on." Like, that's what that
is a really good
of.
movie, actually. Yes,
School of Rock is a really good movie. I've not watched it in a long time, but it is
that's a good feel good one.
Yes. Yes. Yeah, not everything Jack Black's done has been gold, but that one stands out, I think. But so no. As for other stuff along the way, Evangeline Lilly checks in every now and then, goes to the big final fight, but we see her watching on TV. There's a really good moment, actually. The first time they're doing the big arena fight that they win, some guy tries to talk to her in the bar where she's watching, and she just kind of like turns away from him. I was like, "Oh, shut up, I'm watching the thing."
It looked like she was there on a date. Like, she was all dressed up.
she got dressed up.
She was just watching Jackman on TV, though.
Yeah, she got dressed up because Jackman was on TV, and that's good enough reason.
I did that. I mean, I didn't today, but I didn't watch it today.
Yes. Well, so you're saying a couple of days ago when you watched it, you got dressed up?
Oh yeah, full eyelash extensions or whatever they're called.
Just in
they're
case
impossible to put on.
Just in case the Jackman can
contour
to the screen.
Yeah, I'm being brave. There's no makeup today. It's the real Tara.
Real Tara for real steel.
Real Tara, real steel.
Yes.
Love it.
There's not much left to really get into with the movie. I don't think. The celebration is, it's crowd pleasing, as in the movie. Like, the crowd's going nuts.
Yeah, I think. I mean, at first I was a little bit annoyed with Evangeline Lilly's character, just because she's just there for Hugh Jackman. But it is nice to have somebody who's linked to the person he used to be that can see him reform. Basically.
Yeah, I think that's the point of her character more than anything, is to give us someone who can see that he's himself again. And because I think that moment where she starts crying in the crowd and she can see it in his face, because all movie, like, she, occasionally he flirts with her, occasionally, he'll be nice, or he'll say something, and she'll sort of smile, or she'll be taken aback by this person she obviously cares about. But so much of their interaction is her saying, you have to, like, stop being a screw up, you have to actually pay your debt, you have to do this, you have to do that, because he's a bit of a loser who keeps, but she clearly still cares. So it's almost like she's fighting the whole movie for him to be who he's supposed to be, and he just keeps letting her down. But then the kids, what kind of forces it into him, and the heart's there, it works, it's sweet. The stuff the stuff that's paid off at the end is all set up. We should mention Kevin Durand makes a silly bet with Anthony Mackie, because Anthony Mackie's not around for a lot of the movie, but he's outside before the big fight at the end, and he comes up and he makes a bet for $100,000 that Atom won't last past one round, and at the end of round one, when Atom's still standing, he tries to, like, run off with his tacky girlfriend out of the crowd. But Anthony Mackie and his I don't know if henchman's the right word, but his comrades, are waiting for him. So they don't show us what happens to him. I can only assume it's just as dark as what happened to Hugh Jackman.
Right.
But yeah. But he took the money from the kid.
Trying to run out on a bet, huh?
Yeah. This is the thing. See, if he'd not taken money from the kid, I mean, he's doing it. He's a prick, and I don't like him because he's got that kind of face. But I wouldn't necessarily think he deserves this. But because he stole the money from the kid as well, he deserves what's coming to him here. Exactly.
He does
that simple.
He does have that face, though, huh?
He does. He's got that shit-eating grin.
He's typecast, but I mean, I'm sure he's a really nice guy.
I don't know. We'll have to find out. I'm actually
a fortunate face.
I'm recognizing there's like a few different writers on here. John Gatins, but I'm recognizing Dan Gilroy. What's Dan Gilroy done? Because I recognize that name. Oh yeah, of course, Nightcrawler. He wrote and directed Nightcrawler.
Oh, I haven't seen that, but isn't that like a pretty prestigious film?
It's pretty great. I did not like his follow-up, but it wasn't his straight follow-up. But
Richard Matheson wrote the short story Steel. He did a lot of Twilight Zone episodes.
Dan Gilroy did Velvet Buzzsaw last year. That went straight to Netflix. I did not care for that movie, but some people still loved it. I thought it was basically nothing that just kind of droned on for like 2.5 hours or whatever it was. But Nightcrawler is really good. That's a really weird connection, actually.
Oh, and executive producers are Steven Spielberg and Robert Zemeckis.
That doesn't surprise me. This feels like a Zemeckis Spielberg thing.
Did you like the music?
Nah, not really.
Are you sure?
I know where you're going with this. You want to, like, give me the gotcha with a Danny Elfman name, but I mean, I will say this: I didn't dislike the music either. It was kind of generic in there.
I got feelings, and I know that has something to do with the music, not just the acting.
Sure. I mean, I will say this: it was probably the least Elfman.
Yeah, I didn't. When I saw the name, I was like, oh, I didn't realize that it was Danny Elfman. Yeah. That's why I thought that maybe you wouldn't have known either. But clearly you looked it up or saw it in the credits.
I saw it's in the opening title, so I knew from the start it was a Danny Elfman score.
You're like,
It's like, oh, it's Danny Elfman. Set expectations accordingly. Nah. Look, for a movie that's basically a big budget version of Rock'em Sock'em Robots, it's surprisingly good. Not great, not amazing, but really solid for what it is.
Wow. Each robot was built in real life, and for certain shots, the animatronics, they were controlled by more than 20 puppeteers.
That's pretty cool. I mean,
pretty cool.
You can tell they're really there, like when they're just standing still, because they're just there. So I'm glad they did it as practical as they could, because I think it adds a lot to the movie. Maybe that's why we didn't notice the effects as much, because a lot of it wasn't actually CG. So yeah, that makes sense.
And the boxing was done through motion captures using professional boxers, supervised by Sugar Ray Leonard. Cool. That's my trivia. That's it.
I love the idea that Hugh Jackman also had to learn to do the moves though, just so that he could actually mimic them. But no, it's good.
Jackman seems like the type that will learn how to box in order to do this if he didn't already know.
Yes. No, I would agree with that. Yeah, it's delightful for what it is. If what we've talked about sounds appealing, I think you'll get something out of it.
Oh, and I mean, we forgot the name of him, but the champion boxer is named Zeus, which is an obvious like nod to the original Rocky, where his opponent was Apollo.
Yeah, that's a nice touch. That's a nice touch.
Cute.
That's a nice touch. Actually, what's funny about watching a movie that's set in the near future is like looking at the technology and like we've not moved too far ahead of this. Well, I don't know, it was the same year set in, but like what I'm saying is that there was nothing in the technology that felt like it's starting to slightly feel dated in what they've predicted. Because essentially what they're using at the start is like a tablet with like two. It's like almost like a Switch, but just slightly more high tech. Because the tablet part's more just like a sheet of glass.
You know what it's called?
What's it called?
The Xbox 720.
I did not notice that.
Well, there's an Xbox 720 in like one of the scenes.
I did not notice that.
Yeah, isn't that funny?
That's really funny.
Because Xbox naming system is garbage.
It is absolute garbage.
And they couldn't predict it.
There's a great image online of, okay, this is an Xbox. This is one Xbox box. This is one Xbox One. This is one Xbox One box. This is one Xbox Series X. This is one X1 Series Xbox. This is a series of Xbox Series Xboxes.
This is why I like the number system. Like just go 1, 2, 3, 4.
I know.
Like, I like it for movies. I like it for gaming systems. It just makes sense.
Look,
I mean, Nintendo is probably the worst. Like as someone who used to sell video games and systems.
The Wii U was a silly name.
The Wii U is silly. I mean, I didn't even know. I thought it was just going to be another Wii. I didn't realize it was a whole nother system.
I think a lot of people saw that.
The DS, the DSi, the 3DS, the
DS
new
Lite.
Nintendo 3DS. And I sold used systems and new systems. So I had to be like, did you want the new used 3DS? Or did you want a used regular 3DS? Like, what? No, I want it used.
Yeah, like, you know what? If you don't like PlayStation, I get it. I tend to prefer PlayStation exclusives, but you cannot argue that PlayStation 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 is a nice, simple, easy to understand system that's not confusing at all.
Yes, I agree.
Oh dear. Xbox 7, it's so weird that this is only 9 years old, but we've actually went through another, like we've had a whole Xbox that would have been the 720 that's now turned, that was the Xbox One, and now we're onto a new one already.
Yeah.
That's how much times have changed in 9 years. Towers just sent me an image of the Xbox 720 ad, which I love that it is literally just the 360 logo, but with the 360 replaced with 720.
They did their best.
Joe, that's like, and we've not done this movie yet, but we will at some point, is the Arnold Schwarzenegger film, The Sixth Day.
Oh yeah,
there's something similar in that. It's just so funny. We were speaking about WWE earlier. Vince McMahon tried to launch his own football league, and he did it again this past year, but the pandemic got in the way of it. But it was called the XFL. He tried it in 2000 or 2001, and in that movie, which was set in the future, like that was what they were watching in the future, was a big hologram of the XFL. The idea being that look at how the XFL is still around in the future, and it's this big thing. It lasted 1 year and just completely bombed and went away.
That's funny.
I'm sure we can look out for some of these things potentially in other future movies. I will say this though, when I watch Fifth Element and I see them eating McDonald's, I'm like, you know what? Yeah, that's probably going to be accurate. McDonald's will outlive us all.
Or Demolition Man with Taco Bell.
Yeah. Although apparently in some places in Europe they changed it to Pizza Hut because people in Europe didn't know what Taco Bell was.
Oh, that's funny. It's such a huge plot point.
I never saw that version because the version I saw was the one on TV and it was the Taco Bell version, and that's why I learned what Taco Bell was. I learned it through I thought Taco Bell was a really upper class restaurant because the scene in the movie they're sitting down to eat like they're at a restaurant, like a proper like
which is why it's so funny.
I know, but I didn't understand that. I just thought Taco Bell was this type of restaurant. It wasn't until years later that I realized it's like cheap shitty fast food.
Yeah.
I can't believe we somehow came full circle in WWE and Vince McMahon and Taco Bell in this review.
You're welcome.
We went 720 one might say.
Nice.
Okay, let's rate the movie. Let's wrap this wacky one up. What are you giving Real Steel?
I think Real Steel is a real good time. It's not great, but it's like a fun watch. And if you have expectations low, they're definitely going to get exceeded, because mine were. So I'm going to go 7.5. Pretty positive.
I feel that's this movie's biggest strength, is I think everyone who watches it is going in with low expectations.
Yeah.
If anything, we may be hurting it because people might have, like, not super high expectations, but just a little too high expectations now, based on what we've said. So just go in with low expectations, and I think you'll be pleasantly surprised. I'm not going to go slightly as high as Tara. I'm going to go straight 7. I think it's a good movie that has a solid script with solid performances that elevates what it is, and it's just good. And I was impressed with that because I was not expecting that. So better than it has any right to be. So what can you say?
Put that on the poster.
If you have made it this far, put the phrase Xbox 720 in the comments on YouTube to let us know you got to the end of the review. I'm going to make Tara pose for the thumbnail. So
can I do my silent judgment?
I don't think that works for this movie. Maybe like a
I'll get my dukes up.
Do a boxing pose. All right, so here we go. 3, 2, 1. Oh, yeah, okay, that's good. Yeah, that's good. That's good. I was worried because your head was tipping out of frame, but I was like, no, but then you put it down for the pose. I was like, okay, that's fine. It's fine. All right, there you go. Posing done. Word done.
What's coming up next time?
Oh yeah, the next time commencing. We have our last of the 3 set in 2020 movies coming up.
Not that it really mattered.
Yeah, it wasn't.
I mean, none of these movies are really all that obviously 2020.
They just happen to be 20. Well, this one's a bit older, so maybe it'll be a bit more interesting. So the next one is Mission to Mars. So we'll see how that goes. Now, I don't think I've ever seen Mission to Mars. I've seen Red Planet, which was a very similar movie that came out at a very similar time. I never saw Mission to Mars, though. I saw Red Planet, which I think had Val Kilmer in it.
Oh, I remember. Does Mission to Mars have Gary Sinise?
That sounds maybe right. I don't know. Maybe that's Red Planet. I don't know. But they were very similar times. It was like 1999-ish. Both of these movies came out. I
don't think I've seen either of them.
Well, we'll find out how we feel next time then. I don't think I've seen this one. I think I've seen Red Planet, not this one. But that's what's coming up next week for episode 92. This was episode 91. That's right.
Cool.
Keep track of the numbers.
Almost there.
So as we said earlier, of course, you can check out Patreon, patreon.com/MailFuzzTV. Also, like and subscribe. These things are super important because it lets us know what content you like and that you want to keep seeing it coming, and it lets us find new audience members because YouTube will share us out a little bit more, stuff like that. So please do hit the like button and support us on Patreon if you can, but do not feel too bad if you can't. Otherwise, you can catch us on the Twitters at @mailed_fuzz for channel updates. Tara is going to promote something else that you can find from us on MailFuzz TV.
Well, if you enjoy scripts from Richard Matheson, who did the story Steel for this movie, you should check out another show we do that often does Richard Matheson scripts. And it's called Twilight Zone. We are reviewing old episodes of Twilight Zone. By old, I mean the original one, at least for right now. And we are starting season 3, so follow along with us, please.
Yeah.
Thank you.
There you go. That has been the Atomic Cinema Experiment. That has been us discussing Real Steel. A bit of a lighter film, so maybe not quite as gritty a conversation to get into, but, you know, that's okay. Sometimes we'll do some lighter films.
Yeah, better than the last robot movie we watched.
I mean, I actually rated them both the same. I think they have different strengths, I'll say that much. This one I like the characters and the heart, which is something that Pacific Rim is lacking completely. But I like the actual robot action-y stuff more in Pacific Rim, so you know. Now if one movie can combine all those things together, then we're in the business. We're in the business. We get a classic.
But not Transformers.
Yeah, not Transformers. But we could get a 10 out of 10 if those two things.
Come on, Power Ranger or Voltron or something. I don't know.
Yeah. Oh man, I mean, I enjoyed the last Power Rangers movie, but if I could get a 10 out of 10 Power Rangers movie, I'd be in Valhalla.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Okay, so with all that said, thank you very much for watching or listening. We always appreciate it. Keep watching science fiction and computer. That's Elsa.
Think outside the bun.